Developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it! My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
And now, Reality Rants with Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
We are live. It is Mixed Martial Mindset. I'm with John Fitch. A lot to talk about as the world burns, as Fitch put it before the break.
Watching the world burn.
How you doing, buddy?
Get a comfortable seat.
So let's talk a little bit about John Fitch being on the left coast, because that's where a lot of this is happening, where you're going to see a lot more of the visual panic, whereas since the national media is not panicking about it, and it's a slow burn.
There's a lot of people who normally would not pay attention to a lot of this stuff who were touched directly by the bank issue, Silicon Valley Bank. Right. So some people are going to start wondering what the hell's going on. There are people who lost a lot of stock, lost a lot of money that's been saved through that bank. And man, mismanagement. And they gave what, 74 million to
I saw
Black
that.
Lives Matter.
Yeah, right before. See,
So
listen,
so that bank went like woke and was like playing with people's money and investments, doing woke stuff with other people's money.
Here's the thing. In my eyes, 74 million is chump change, but those are kind of the payoffs, right? And what do I mean by the payoffs? A lot of that is money laundering right there. So when you see organizations like that getting large sums of money from the bank, that's kind of the payoffs for when you see them getting behind certain candidates, opening up certain super PACs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, on the political end. And that's coming from...
Who knows what kind of special favors they did on loans and stuff with people.
Oh, well, look, again, that's another reason this Epstein case in the Virgin Islands that's not being talked about. Well, people are sitting there talking about lists that we remember last week we discussed about Jamie Dimon, right? Well, guess what? SVB was on that list of banks that they want disclosed. And there was, I think, I don't want to misname it. It might have been First Republic. It might not have. We've got to look it up. But was also on that list of banks. So when we talk about these type of favors,
you're saying some of these bank casualties may be controlled burns.
What I'm saying is right now what you're seeing is what's the mantra? Keep your money in the bank, but what we're going to allow to happen is we're going to allow the government and the FDIC to step in, and basically it's a fire sale on your assets, and they're encouraging people to start accounts. And most of these accounts that got out first, right, before the collapse, like the Peter Thiel group and his investors.
Didn't one of the, I don't know, a CEO or one of the big head ups like 4 days or a few days before everything sold all his stock?
There were a couple Israeli firms that did the same thing and got it out.
I was joking to the guy who told me that, and I was like, hey, they checked Nancy Pelosi's trades.
Again,
she usually does pretty well on big things like that.
they've encouraged everybody to move their money into JP Morgan, another big bank. But remember, JP Morgan, they're trying to, get the emails of Jamie Dimon and his communications with Epstein. That would be huge. But they're saying,
Well,
Chase,
I mean, it's scary because it's also monopolization kind of the bank. Like, they're going to force everybody into one or two banks. Isn't that going to make it way more easier for them to monitor everybody's finances?
Well, at the same time, it's a slow burn, John, because once you've consolidated enough power and you don't have the community, federal credit unions, because the economy's literally collapsed and you're in a Weimar banana republic.
And the dollar is becoming increasingly less valuable. So what's the point of saving dollars in a credit union?
And you're regulating crypto where most people aren't savvy enough to trade person-to-person crypto. I would hope people would learn that, but then that could become illegal, or people just might not want it because things are so bad and you're going to have to, barter and trade. Let's hope it doesn't get to that level, but it has gotten to that level in other nations. We've never lived through a moment like this. This is that quote-unquote reset they're trying to get pushed through, and I think that, again, via the control.
The thing is, I mean, we've become accustomed to this pansy city life. Honestly, I remember as a kid, there was a lot of bartering that went on between aunts and friends and uncles and people. There was a lot of, hey, we're helping you with this. We've got extra firewood. You want to come get some firewood? Okay, thanks. Here's some eggs. Like, that was very common. Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's still places that are rural that are still doing a lot of that, but it's less and less, and everybody wants to order stuff from Amazon or go into this big store, the big Walmart. See, like, we're old school, man. I remember before there was a Costco, before there was a Meijer, before there was a giant Walmart. Mm-hmm. Like, before there was that, you had to go to a different place for every different thing. So the chores took a lot longer, and we weren't as spoiled.
Yeah, no, you had to go to like a ShopRite or a Grand Union.
Trade a haircut for a dozen eggs. Like, that's just how it went down. But now I feel like there's a separation between a lot of people, and a lot of people don't even have the contacts that they would be able to make those kind of deals.
No, they don't have the social skills or the bartering skills to actually make them, and they don't have something that they can offer. Once you trade the goods that you have and you can't offer any services, and what good are your goods going to be unless they're bare bones at this point, right? Mm-hmm. Again, let's hope it doesn't get to Road Warrior style, but my fear is if it gets bad enough, then people are more likely to look to the government for a solution and institute a UBI, CBDC type, because everybody was on their phone and their apps, especially for the old COVID 1984 nightmare. Hey, got a QR code? You bet I do, buddy. Blah, 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 blah. Scary. So let's talk about the corruption a bit, because there are actually a couple of big stories. It's not looking good. Everybody, I just want to say this again. It's not looking good. None of this is looking good in this wake. But here's where a really interesting story got me. Okay, Fitch? Barney Frank, who's our little thumbnail here, this is a guy who, as we're going to show you,
Keto numero one.
$2 million. $2 million at Signature Bank, which failed along with SVB. That's the smaller bank. That's the one that you're hearing less about. All right. And this is why we've fallen as a society. People like Barney Frank, who I'm going to illustrate. We're going to watch a little 5-6 minute clip from Invisible Empire, a film that is now 2023, 13 years old in the month. 13 years old in the month. And when I made this film, he wasn't in prison. And when I made this film, Dennis Hassert still hadn't been outed as a serial child molester as a judge, another big-time person in politics. And by the way, Dennis Hassert is in prison either. Our society's fallen. We've let really bad people.
We let pedophiles roam free. and continue to rip people off and steal from people.
A skeleton in Barney's a closet. A gay prostitute stretches the limit for sex scandals. This is Time Magazine, guys. You can't. Well, we don't have to make it up because we've got the video evidence, and this is an excerpt of Invisible Empire. Let's continue it from where we got it. And this is how it works, guys. This is how they compromise. You're right here. You get elevated.
Why are Christian conservatives such as the Bushes and Newt Gingrich attending the Grove?
And I recognize I'm not going to be invited to Renaissance Weekend or that Bohemian deal where Newt, Rush, and Dick all sit in a teepee naked beating on tom-toms.
Why does the media barely mention the Grove? Because many of them are in attendance. Late political cartoonist Phil Frank of the San Francisco Chronicle draws a reporter thinking about his loyalties to Bohemian Grove as he takes notes for a story.
Stories about what happens in these redwoods are hard to come by. A campground statue reminds Bohemians to keep their mouths shut about the Grove.
Many world events have been shaped at the Grove, including the creation of the atomic bomb.
Discussions at the Grove in the 1930s helped lead to the development of nuclear power and the atomic bomb.
Every Republican president since Calvin Coolidge has been a member, as well as many Democrats, including Jimmy Carter.
If you look at the membership lists of the Bohemian Grove and the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, a lot of the key level people are overlapping and are involved in numerous groups.
In addition to pagan rituals that take place there, this all-male club also deals with darker themes through the plays Montezuma, which feature Aztec human sacrifice, and Faust, which feature Mephisto.
All this stuff, they're internals. These are the people we've put in charge, everybody. And don't worry, we're going to circle. We're almost to the Barney Frank stuff. Because, look, I want to make this clear before I make the point. You notice that's a man in drag looking at another man, getting ready to kiss him. Again, you want to do your thing, you do your thing. But when you pose as a Christian conservative, and then you actually partake in this, you're going to find out male prostitutes are a big thing. You've compromised yourself. Now, when it goes to the next level of depravity, and you're not just a liar, like, again, do your own thing, but you're compromised if you're doing that stuff and you're saying you're a Christian conservative. If you're Lindsey Graham, you're probably compromised. I'm just pointing that out, like real time. These are the people in charge. Now let's get to kids. Let's get to running underage DC brothels, Barney Frank. But again, let's get to the pagan type rituals because they're great too. Everybody loves the devil.
Some of these plays are disturbingly flamboyant. Many of the elitists have a penchant for cross-dressing and singing show tunes.
You wonder why drag queen story time's here all of a sudden? These guys have been drag queening for a long time.
They made it popular.
Perhaps that is why much of the all-male staff also happen to be homosexuals.
Well, each year, many of them seem to have a stunt or try to come up with a stunt. Last year, in 1980, the popular button was Free the Fortune 500.
Bohemian Grove that I attend one time at a time. It is the most faggot goddamn thing you could ever imagine.
In 2004, the New York Post reported that gay porn star Chad Savage would be servicing moguls at the Bohemian Grove. In recent years, several politicians have been outed in scandals, including Senator Larry Craig, who tried to solicit sex from an undercover officer in 2007. Even more shocking, it was revealed in 2004 that right-wing blogger James Guckert, who had unprecedented access to the White House during the Iraq War, was actually Jeff Gannon, a madam and male prostitute for MilitaryStuds.com. During his 2 years writing for GOP USA and Talon News, Gannon officially made over 200 appearances at the White House. Oddly enough, over 24 of these visits would take place when there were no scheduled briefings. He failed to check in or out with the Secret Service on many other occasions, coming and going as he pleased. These type of activities are not new to the White House. In 1989, headlines involving callboys in the White House rocked the cover of the Washington Times.
The Washington Times reported today that unidentified White House aides in the Carter, Reagan, and Bush administrations now are being investigated for using the services of a callboy ring.
Oh, just a callboy ring? You know, again, I want to say it again. What two adults do, I don't care, but we got to point out that you're compromised and you're fleecing people. But then when we get to callboys, yeah, I care. I'll call me old-fashioned. I care. These are people not that should run the government or country, but should be in prison. But don't worry, we're getting to good old Barney Frank and how he's involved, everybody. But again, a consultant for $2 million at Signature Bank this year.
The paper reports
Like,
that two
do
of them...
people not read or do research on people who's putting their money in with these guys? Who's like, oh yeah, this is the convicted pedophile guy.
That's the
Oh,
point.
here,
They're
take
the
my
people.
money.
They
Take me
love
more
it.
money.
They're the ones that are compromised and will be cutthroat and go with whatever agenda. They're Play-Doh.
Male prostitutes were given a late-night tour of the White House last year.
Hundreds of credit card receipts obtained by the Washington Times confirm that its clients were key officials of the Reagan and Bush administrations, military officers, congressional aides, and U.S. and foreign businessmen with close social ties to Washington's political elite. This ring extended beyond the White House and into Congressman Barney Frank's bedroom.
Barney Frank, one of two openly homosexual members of Congress, acknowledged having used a male prostitute, whom he then hired as a personal employee. The man had keys to Frank's basement apartment on Capitol Hill. Frank paid him approximately $20,000 out of his own pocket to be his housekeeper and driver. But as first reported in today's Washington Times, the man was on...
Let me just stop right here, because as they're saying this, we're blocking it off on the left. Under sex sold from congressman, let me read what it says. School used as base for sex ring. So what they don't tell you is that not only was this being run out of Barney Frank's place, but over at Chevy Chase, I believe it was either middle school or elementary. Let's see if we can get a better shot of that really quickly. See,
and they won't. Yeah, like news. This is the news, and they're like leaving things out on purpose.
School used again as base for sex ring. Sex sold from congressman's apartment. But this is how it works, John. You just threaten people, and everybody backs off.
Probation for sex crimes and a drug conviction. And he ran a prostitution business out of Frank's home.
Although Frank tried to claim ignorance, Stephen Goby, the prostitute in question, claimed that Frank was completely aware of what was going on and was even receiving free and discounted sexual services. The fix seemed to be in. Frank was threatening members of Congress to remain silent prior to being exposed in this sex ring.
Massachusetts Democrat Barney Frank, a homosexual, threatened to
get
expose
suicided?
fellow
No. Apparently he's still around. I talked to Nick Bryant about him. But again, listen, they right here, they let you know he openly threatened other people with blackmail if they came after him. Watch. It's
Frank was threatening members of Congress to remain silent prior to being exposed in this sex ring.
Massachusetts Democrat Barney Frank, a homosexual, threatened to expose fellow congressmen he knew to be gay unless they stopped spreading rumors.
Questions stopped and Frank walked away with a slap on the wrist. Some members of the ethics committee were disgusted.
Do we tolerate, do we condone a member of this body who knowingly permits a house of prostitution to be operated out of his residence?
We do. And now, listen, literally, that's 1989. So 34 years later, he's still getting kickbacks from failed banks to the tune of 7+ figures a year, John. And we're not done, because this is what I want people to understand. This is how it works. He's not the only guy. After this, we'll get to the Chris Hansen and have a seat with Foley. And Mark Foley never went to jail at all. He just gets to go to rehab.
Just heard one of the most edited, selective garbage that has ever been put forth, in my opinion, in this House.
Again, we see people of the highest levels of power involved in the most repulsive and decadent of crimes.
They couldn't care less about the code of conduct that's taught in all major religions about treating others the way that you want to be treated. And then they masquerade, they put this false front on that they're like everybody else, because your average person wants to do right, believes in some sort of a karma, believes in some sort of a divine justice in the universe. And so these people need to put on this front that they're like the average Joe in middle America, that they go to church every once in a while, and they believe in an afterlife and a divine justice, and so they have to put on this front that they're like everybody else in order to get elected and to be accepted and to not have people look at them suspiciously, because if somebody goes around and openly admits that they were an atheist or that they were of some obscure religion, people aren't going to throw their support behind them as much, and they're not going to trust them as easily.
The reality of this behavior is never revealed to the public.
I guess the other scandal must have been right before it, so we don't need to do any more. Oh, there he is right there. There's Mark Foley. I guess it's right after that. No, it's right here.
He's continued to this day. Florida Congressman Mark Foley chaired the House caucus on missing and exploited children.
Oh, and again, he's the guy looking at
they're in charge of it. Jeez, I wonder why they never catch anybody. Jeez, I wonder, man.
Television praising Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator series.
It's crazy.
The Dateline piece has probably done more than any law we can create.
Foley was later caught attempting to have sexual relations with numerous underage pages.
Congressman Mark Foley, the man who championed the Child Protection Act of 2006, resigned after inappropriate emails and instant messages surfaced that he sent to former congressional pages.
Once more, no charges were even filed.
Foley himself has checked into rehab. No one has been charged with any crime.
Man, he gets a radio show. That's how that works, John. That's how that works. Let's go down the line. Because again, I want people to understand that monsters walk amongst us. And here's a story that proves it. Trainee family doctor 32 is arrested after cops found huge trove of child porn and clips of him examining children he'd secretly recorded on a bracelet during a search of his parents' $1.1 million mansion. So this guy comes from a rich family.
He's a rich family. Oh, my God.
This guy right here apparently allegedly did this.
Pedo eyes.
This just lets you know. Evil walks amongst us. You don't just trust people. I mean, I saw this story, and it's like, cops then see 61 electronic devices as they are arresting the trainee doctor. Farrick's father told investigators that the devices belonged to him. But he's out. He's been released. $50,000 cash bail and was released. See, this is my problem with the system. That person needs to go to prison forever and get no bail.
And be kept away from children.
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Why?
And I'm not calling for capital punishment. I am calling that he has to have a trial by his peers. But until then, because it seems like this guy was molesting children and recording them as trying to be a pediatrician, that he goes to jail and awaits trial, and if he's found guilty, you leave him there forever. Am I out of line?
Like, what parent leaves their child alone in the room with a doctor? I'm sorry, am I weird that I would be very weirded out if the doctor asked me to step outside during the examination with my small child. I'd be like, what did you say?
Well, if he's a
the hell you will do it in private.
I'll say this, John. If he is a trainee, there's a lot of chances that you're
where if he's a trainee who's the supervisor who's watching him too, like that's a major breakdown of a lot of people.
I would say this: you're probably in a situation where the children that you're looking at, in most cases, come from either poor families or they might, in fact, be orphans, right? Because they're in group homes or whatever. And, a lot of those parents just don't care in the first place. Who knows if there's oversight. Whenever you're getting something like that involved, these type of people, I mean, take a look at those eyes. They take their opportunities, is what I'm going to say. You know what I mean? And again, we live in a depraved society that just shows that illustrates my point. Okay, illustrates my point. We're not holding people accountable. Do you think that type of person isn't going to go after a kid again? Gary Glitter. Do you know the story of Gary Glitter?
Oh, man. I don't think I know Gary Glitter. The Seville story, I watched some of that, and that was awful. I had to turn it off after a minute.
Well, Mr. Glitter, again, this is a man who's been convicted of child sex abuse. Should have been in jail forever, John. Instead, they let him out and back in prison 1 month after release. Because these people don't stop, John.
Yep.
Okay, they do not stop at all, ever. So why are we not just putting them away? Why in the world are we trying to endanger children on any level? It really makes me upset, and it should make more and more people upset, in my opinion.
So, yeah, it's a failure in society that, we don't even try to protect the kids.
No. It's really, it makes me very, very upset. By the way, we got a video of an MEP talking about things we can't talk about here, but we can talk about this collapse. Credit Sus seems to be the next big thing, because this, and I hate how they're calling it contagion, and they're calling it viral, and now everything's viruses. And,
yeah, everything's contagious, everything's contaminated, everything's a virus. It's like they got to get it stuck in your head.
Exactly. Everything's systemic. Yeah, no, it's a systemic breakdown of your Ponzi scheme, but it's a controlled implosion to bring us into some new terrible system of total command and control and no private ownership. And that's why Joe Exotic is running for president in 2024, John. So again, going back to the main theme of the program, okay, put aside that I'm gay and in prison.
Past tiger killings, oh my goodness.
Jailed Joe Exotic announces 2024 presidential run and urges public to get over his past tiger killings, but can't resist taking a swipe at nemesis Carol Baskin in a campaign message. Now, I want to point out that I didn't get on the Joe Exotic train. It was early in the COVID 1984 nightmare pandemic when people thought they were going to be in their house for 2 weeks. It was cute then, right? Everybody loved Joe Exotic. Let's just type in Joe Exotic accused of animal sex tapes. Well, how about that? Jeff Lowe smears Tiger Joe with tiger sex tape claims. Not the only one that said that. I believe his own niece said there was Exotic. Again, I want to say now this guy, thank God, is in jail. But to speak to the depravity and the collapse of our society, that guy was made into a pop culture icon.
Yep. People still love Joe Exotic.
Not only love Joe Exotic, they go, that bitch Carol Baskin.
Yeah. Probably did kill her husband, though.
I mean, more than likely. But that's here nor there. I mean, if we had to guess or roll the dice, she does seem like that type of a person. But that's the shit show, right? Like that we're even like.
I mean, follow Rome, bread and circus, bro. Bread and circus. We got slap fighting as a thing.
I mean, well, we're gonna have to get to the MMA card eventually too. I don't know when we're gonna pull out of YouTube, but when we pull out of YouTube, we'll get a little serious, and then we'll get a little slap fighty, I guess, and then we'll also go over the fights themselves. Who you got? You got Usman or Edwards?
Oh man, well, you didn't see much change in how the fight went from the first fight to the second fight, other than the like 5 seconds where Edwards was able to set up and pull off that kick. Is Lightning going to be able to strike twice, or did he learn enough wrestling in the time between his last fight with Usman that now he's not going to get taken down, or he's going to be able to get up more easily? I don't know. I have a hard time, so it's going to be a heavy favorite towards Usman winning a 5-round decision versus possible knockout again by Edwards. Yeah.
I mean, this is what
you
I'm
know,
looking
what's
at.
more likely? I think it's more likely we get 5 rounds of Usman ground and pound.
Well, I think that's what he's going to want to go to. But here's what I'm going to say. In the first fight, I felt like Usman was much more dominant and was able to command and control on the ground way more. I thought there was some improvement on Edwards, but he wasn't really able to strike for most of those moments. I think if you look at it, that Usman had a lot more ground control in the first fight. And that's maybe what set up that kick. Now, same thing. Usman on paper looks like the guy, especially if he can get that ground and pound, because he absolutely had success and was winning that fight for that. The question, I guess, I would have to agree, is he going to be able to stuff more takedowns, improve even further, and then possibly get that big moment, because he is a deadly striker. And Usman's shown before that he can get touched. Gilbert Burns definitely touched him in that first only fight. He did recover, but that was close to being stopped as well. So, yeah, you know, I'm not saying, listen, taking nothing away from Usman. He's a Superman in there. But is he invincible? Who knows? I don't know.
No, he's definitely not invincible.
That's right.
I think Emasov beats him.
Dude, I do too. I think he's the number one, dude. After watching that 5-round performance in Bellator.
No cross promotion will never get him to see him fight a lot of the top guys.
Jimmy Eblin.
That's one of the things that's a real pain in the ass with Bellator and UFC right now. Is Bellator legitimately has some guys who are better than the top guys in the UFC, better than the champions. You know, I would love to see Usman Nurmagomedov fight some of the top lightweights. I'd love to see Bader fight some of the heavyweights. You know,
I agree, especially right now.
The light heavyweights. I'd love to see some of those guys compete and fight.
I think Jimmy
UFC
Eblin's
guys,
the real
I think
guy.
there's plenty of them who can compete at that top level.
Yeah, I agree. Jimmy Eblin, again, he looks absolutely outstanding. All right, let's hit a couple more stories up, and then we are going to go over to Rockfin and Rumble exclusively. We're going to have to drop out of the YouTube because I don't want to play this clip of an MEP daring to tell the truth. Imagine that. A member of the parliament saying, hey, what the flickle schnick is going on? What the fuckle schnuck is happening here? This Harvard longevity researcher 53 says he has de-aged himself a decade thanks to these 4 daily hacks. This is actually David Sinclair. This is the guy right here who is on the anti-agers, some of which I take. NAD plus, metformin is another one, resveratrol. And then he talks about fasting, basically running a certain amount. I think he's 53 at this point. And I don't know, have you come across any of his videos? He's done Rogan before.
No, I have not.
I mean, I don't know about the matcha tea. He likes that matcha green tea twice a day. But everything else, you know, he talks about basically the consolidation of just eating a few hours a day, you know, taking those type of drugs, exercising, you know, several times a week minimum. And like I said, this is the guy that studied de-aging in rats. And I think there's, you know, something there. Who knows, you know, if he's going to live longer.
I mean, he de-aged himself. I mean, he de-aged himself in the sense that his bad habits, his unhealthy lifestyle aged him so greatly, right? That it put him at a deficit. He doesn't look, he's 53. He doesn't look 43. He doesn't look 33, you know? He just looks way younger than he would have if he would have kept eating the garbage food. You'll be surprised with how much just cutting out processed nonsense will do for you.
Well, he's been on it a while. I mean,
he lifts some weights and eat whole foods. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. There's a lot of different ways to mix it up. I think a little bit of HIIT cardio every once in a while to really stress the circulatory system and everything, lifting weights, and then eating clean. It's pretty simple. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I use meal planning. Some people do fasting and eat twice a day or once a day. There's a lot of different ways to do it. You just got to find what kind of fits your workload and what you can handle. But it's the bullshit food. It's really the bullshit food, guys, and the chemicals that you put in your body. That's what's doing it to you.
And there is a plenty of the bullshit food out there. So Trump was just in my neighborhood, literally right around the corner. I did get last-minute press passes, but I just couldn't. I had not slept since 5 p.m. the day before, and Secret Service has you come in at 3 to check in, and then you weren't getting out of there till 8 or 9. I wouldn't have made it, and plus I just didn't want to be around all those other mainstream reporters. They're terrible people. C-SPAN, however, covered it. We played some of the clips. He's talking about the baby boom, etc. The question is, will he be able to run, or are they going to again try to put him in prison? And once again, now
they will definitely come up with some type of whatever bull crap to throw him at him, slander him, try to put him in court, try to arrest him, whatever. They'll find something to do.
And even if he runs,
he's too popular. He's too old. He's too old for me. DeSantis isn't perfect, but at least he's not going to have a stroke, or he's not going to lose his mind. Like, we got to stop having presidents who are over 70. It's got to stop.
I mean, there's a lot to be said there. I don't trust DeSantis. I don't trust any of these people.
Yeah,
I don't think any of,
like the number of dirty deals they had to do to get to that position.
Oh man, he's got such big money behind him, and he's wearing those goddamn heel boots. Stop wearing the fucking heel boots. Like, what do you do? What are you in a 1970s like slacks ad? How dare you? Like, you're not a man of the people. We know you're not. You're wearing those damn heel boots. And even if you were a man of the people at this point, if they were projecting you as much as they are him, I'm worried. The cult of Trump is so strong, just like you said, though, man. He had people around the corner at the Adler, bro. Like, up the block. People couldn't wait to see some Trumpage. So
a lot of people are it's the first guy who's really kind of attacked the media in a long time.
Lifted the veil a bit, lifted the veil. I agree.
And that's a big reason why a lot of people love Elon right now.
Yeah.
They feel like he's sticking up against the man but not for you.
It's worth noting that while everybody else is losing money, John, and most stocks are going down and people aren't making money, you know who's making money? Martine Rothblatt. Martine Rothblatt sells 8,000 shares of United Therapeutics, the company that's printing organs and good stuff like that. It's one of America's most responsible companies. And they're dreaming of one day a factory of unlimited organs with MIT technology. We were actually doing a new 3D printed heart.
So what? So they sold a bunch of shares. Are they kind of cash out and get out of there because they think it's?
I don't think so. I think Rothblatt was just making a little money because the stock was up, and while everybody else is not making money and maybe getting some liquid. Who knows? I mean, who knows who it was sold to? It might have been sold to like an investor, on purpose, because that person is on an inside deal knowing United Therapeutics is only going to go up while the rest of the stock market crashes. We just keep an eye on these things, John. When a lot of people aren't doing so well, there's a new vanguard out there. It's transgender entrepreneurship. And Martine Rothblatt is at the apex of that, Mr. Fitch, don't you know? Because it's from transgender to transhuman. I mean, this is the person making the cash, everybody. I want everybody to know that. This one's making money. Can't make this stuff up, Fitch. I don't have to. It's in the news. I mean, it's stranger than fiction. Just like it's, a lot of people are talking about drones, etc., via the war in Ukraine.
Suicide drones, awesome.
Yeah, well, great. Israel, Gaza, things are getting real in guerrilla warfare. And I'm telling you right now, if we go hot style with Poot, it's not going to look good. It's going to be guerrilla style. It could come here. And when I see think tanks saying martyr complex on Putin, gearing you up for some kind of nuclear disaster. I hate think tanks. Nuclear disaster. And even Rogan, shame on you. Joe Rogan says he would never host Vladimir Putin on his podcast because the murdering tyrant is a different kind of human. Anybody at the top of these
What other politician have you had on who's different? who's any different. You'd have Obama on your show.
Thank you.
I don't see any difference at all between those two people.
Well, I do. I would say I do. I'd say the Poot's way more charge. And
Yeah,
and
true. He actually pulled more
Obama
strings.
Yeah, and Obama's kind of more
One was more of a
PR.
puppet.
Yeah, exactly. Like for instance, I would say that you had that era of the Pootster where Medvedev was kind of in front a little bit, but then he got a little too big for his britches, and Poot said, no, Pootster coming back to town, because he needed to be that grandiose and to be in that much charge. Now, does he answer to people? Sure, but when we're talking about policy, you're right. Who's signing off on the papers for drone bombings? Both those guys. So if you would have a Joe Biden or a George Bush or Barack Star on, and who knows, maybe he wouldn't have those people on, you should have a Poot. I will say this. One thing that the Pootster definitely has, at least publicly on these people, is KGB, FSB. But there's no, Obama reeks of intelligence. He reeks of intelligence. Kissinger Institute family, Barry Soetoro, even if he's just an asset, reeks of intelligence. All right. Let's see. We got another couple stories before we go over. We got the martyr complex. I wanted to get Fitch's take. I saw it. I want to get the Fitch take, then we're going to give the Bermas take. Megyn Kelly is upset about the Drew Barrymore kneeling to the trans star that got to visit the White House. This guy over here, Mulvaney. I don't know if you saw it, but she kneels and grabs.
No, I posted a picture. It was a picture of Drew Barrymore, and it was next to a picture of Drew Barrymore from E.T., and she's sitting next to E.T. dressed up like a woman on the the thing, and it's showing the two pictures together. It's pretty funny. I think it's on my Twitter.
So here's my take on this. First of all, I'm not going to be mad at Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore is a very scarred human. Just because you're on television and in movies doesn't mean that you don't have all sorts of mass psychosis going on. And when I say mass psychosis, she has every right to be. You just talked about E.T., been in the industry since a child, physically, sexually.
She was 13 and had to go to rehab. I remember hearing this story because she's going to Studio 54. She's doing cocaine, drinking with adults, and they all know that she's 13 years old, 12 years old, whatever. She's a child. They're giving her drugs. They're giving her alcohol. How many of those adults had sex with her?
Thank you, John. So
it's just no different than handing a 13-year-old a beer.
And
there's the picture I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. But
virtually identical.
This is why you can't blame Drew Barrymore. How many therapists has she gone through? How many medications? How many marriages?
Institutionalized. This is an open air prisoner being forced to perform.
In my mind, I hate to tell everybody that this is that extension of MK Ultra societally. Again, the controlled collapse of society. We have allowed them to do again. Why weren't the people that abused Drew Barrymore and caused her to go to rehab as a child in prison forever? We failed society. Why? Because a lot of them were helping to run Hollywood. You think about that. So again, we went through politics, now entertainment. Look where it's gotten us. Guys, we haven't stood up for it. Yeah, I feel bad for Drew Barrymore. Absolutely. All right. That brings us to this here video that I'm just gonna tease. You're not even gonna be able to hear it because it's in another language, everybody. But this is a MP telling it like it is. He posted this to his own Twitter. So this, I I don't speak the language, John. I'm not sure if you do. I would assume you don't. But since he posted it himself, we can assure you that this actually happened. So if you want to see this, YouTubers, you want to go to the uncensored part of the broadcast, you can do so over at Rockfin or Rumble. John, tell everybody before we leave where they can find everything Fitch and watch your uncensored stuff as well.
Yep. Go to johnfitch.net and everything's there. Sign up for the newsletter. I'm working on the practical self-defense course. The intro to practical self-defense course is available and free already on Gumroad. Check my Linktree stuff and my descriptions and all my stuff. And practical one is done. I just got to get the sales page and everything written up, and hopefully that'll be done soon.
All right, YouTube. I wish you could watch this, but this would get me a strike. I'm not allowed to say this or show a member of parliament in the EU say this on the platform.